Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. Dead by Daylight just released a new chapter, and it is buggy to the point of essentially breaking the game entirely. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. If you've been playing DBD for a while, you know that this is just kind of part and parcel for what they do. This is part of the DBD experience, and I'm only making this video today to say that I don't think it should be. I don't think this should be part of the experience. This is getting really out of hand. And look, I don't like to be negative if I can help it, but this is like the 1000th time this has happened, and something has got to change. But let's say you're just walking into this cold turkey. You haven't played the new chapter yet, and you don't quite know what I'm yapping about. So let me go down the list of what's gone wrong. And by the way, this is not exhaustive. Every time we get one of these chapters that breaks everything, we discover bugs for what feels like weeks or months until they all get patched out eventually, right? So I'm just going to give you the list of what I have been made aware of, and if there's anything else, you can let me know down below. The first and biggest one is obviously the fog vials, which are the new item added to the game, and it's going to sound made up. This is going to sound like something I'm just throwing out there. Like, it doesn't actually exist. Oh, that's silly. That's a funny thing. Can you imagine if they did that? But no, actually, it's pretty big. So what have the fog vials done? Why do I have beef with them? It's because the killer cannot start chase until they land their first hit. Now, to my understanding, that is not every game. I think it has to be a game where a fog vial is brought and maybe even used, but the point stands that this is something that has happened in the past. There was a video where Scott Jund was talking about this, so, he goes into it in a little more detail, but basically, this is the 4th iteration of the fog vial we've had, and every single one of them has brought this issue. Which means, by the way, that Behavior made the decision to bring this to the game, even though they knew the past issues, even though they knew that in the past this has been a bit of a disaster piece. And again, I'm not anti-fog vial. Now, I think that they need some tuning. I don't know right now if they're that fun to go against, but from, a gameplay perspective, whatever. I like having new items. That's fun. That's exciting. But I struggle to see how you could know that this issue has happened numerous times. You know it's happened numerous times, and you still bring it to the game without seemingly changing whatever it was, either because you didn't want to, you didn't have the time to, or you simply just don't know how to. You didn't want to, you don't have the time to, you don't know how to. It's got to be one of those. And if it's the you don't know how to, that's a problem. That's a problem, right? Because I'm going to sound a little harsh here. That's your job. Your job as a developer is to know these things. I don't know. I realize I'm being super kind of aggressive with this, but it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. And by the way, yes, it's bad for 99% of the killer roster. But you know who it's not bad for? It's not bad for Pig. Pig can exploit this right now. You shouldn't, by the way. If you're listening to this, it is my understanding that that would be a bannable offense if you exploit it. But let's say you don't even know that it's a thing, and you're just playing Pig, and you're like, man, I sure am winning a lot of Pig games here lately. Is that your fault? I don't know. I mean, if you don't know, then I would say no. But right now, the Pig can basically never start up chases. So if you have the box on somebody, you can just chase them around until their head explodes, which is insane. That's so crazy. That cannot exist. That cannot continue on. Pig has to be kill switched while this is worked on. But she's not the only killer where there are some issues. It's the only real exploit I will give you. But let's talk about it. So Knight had some big changes that were in the PTB, and they basically reverted all those. They said, okay, you hated those, we're not going to do them, fine. I wish I could say they did the same for the clown, but they didn't. What they've done with the clown is actually hard to believe. It's actually hard to believe how brainless they've made him. And by the way, I know, I can hear the people laughing already. Clown, brainless, who would have thought? But no, you gotta understand. There used to be some amount of skill required to play clown well. The 2-second activation time on the yellow bottles basically rewarded those who knew how to use them, and those who didn't know how to use them got almost no value out of them. Now, though, I find it just ridiculously easy just to throw a yellow bottle at your feet, and you're instantly boosted by, what is it, like 15% or so? I think it's 12%. But anyway, you're already a 115 killer. So let's say it is 12%. All of a sudden, you're moving at 127% speed, and there is no activation time. You throw it down, you walk into it, you are instantly boosted. And I know that they thought that this would be something where survivors could maybe take advantage of the yellow gas as well, but it doesn't work like that. Now, the clown doesn't have to risk it, because the clown doesn't have to throw it some distance out so that it can activate. Now the clown just gets to do it instantly. Now the clown is kind of what, like baby Legion or something, in the sense of just moving extremely fast. The only difference being that Clown is kind of built to win the 1v1, and Legion's not really built to do that. Legion's meant to spread pressure, so maybe, maybe that's a bad comparison. But Clown, he can really work people out of the game very quickly now. And I feel like what's going to happen is Clown's going to become one of those that people just instant DC against. Not because he is S tier, not because he's on the level of a Nurse or a Blight or, Oni, or, whoever you were putting up there. He's not a Ghoul, right? He's not quite a Ghoul, but he is in the same camp as Ghoul right now, where his main issue is not even about power, it's about how obnoxious he's going to be to play against. So, as a Clown main, this is sad to me. I hate to see that he is just absolutely in such a frustrating state. On the one hand, yeah, he's going to feel kind of good to play because he's very easy now. But on the other hand, it's just, this is another one of those things where we're seeing both sides of what behavior tends to do very poorly. We're seeing the bugs with the fog vials and some other things, which we'll get to, and we're seeing the balancing issues where they just don't seem to play tested enough to figure out obvious issues with their redesigns. And it's really made Clown very, very unfun to play against. Also, just as a quick aside, I talk about playtesting it, and this has been brought up by many people, not just me, but there's that random poll in the loading screen, right? When you see the offerings, they're flipping over, but you look to the left, and all of a sudden, there is just a PNG of a poll. I'm going to call it a poll, scaffolding, something like that. I don't know what you want to call it, but I don't know why that's there. I can't figure that out. And you may say, oh, but that's harmless. That means nothing. Once again, though, we find ourselves in the situation where we have to ask, did behavior playtest so little that they didn't know this existed, or were they in such a rush to get this put out there that they just didn't even care? Because this is the type of thing that, I'm sorry, it's just embarrassing. No, it doesn't matter. I get that. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. This is not game breaking or anything, but it's the type of thing that I just look at and I'm like, come on, guys, come on. Can you please just get something right here? Speaking of getting things right, or really getting them very, very wrong, let's talk about Michonne for a minute. Michonne sounds awful. And look, I'm not criticizing the voice actor who came in to voice Michonne. I know that this is the only one who they didn't get the actual actor to do it, all that, blah, blah, blah. I'm not blaming the actor. I'm just saying that Michonne is very loud for some reason, even by Survivor standards. Like, yes, some are louder than others. They've said they're going to fix it. They haven't. So, okay. Michonne's very loud, and her audio against the Plague in particular is just unbearable. So if you do face a Plague in your Michonne, I'm not kidding, I think you should just DC. And I don't like to tell people to DC, but you should. So I'm going to give you an example. I found 2 different Twitter users who have taken video of this. So here's an example. Watch at your own risk. I'm going to warn you, it's pretty gross. You may just want to mute the screen for a minute, but here you go. So yeah, again, not a game-breaking bug, but again, it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. Also, here's something that it does seem to be a bug. My mute focus doesn't work anymore. When I tab out, the Walking Dead theme is still playing, and it's kind of loud, so that's fun. Also, behavior has confirmed that the Walking Dead theme, which will trigger copyright, by the way, if you're uploading a YouTube video or something, it plays whether you have licensed audio enabled or not. So it's just another bug. Again, this is death by 1,000 bugs, and then also one big meteor of a bug that's like here to kill all the dinosaurs. That's the fog vial one. That's the chase exploit. That is the big one. But then you get all these little ones. And that's not to mention the ones that were not introduced in this update, but that have been there forever. Obviously, Huntress hitboxes, they're just horrible. They do not feel good at all. For either side, by the way. And that's always been a little true. I'm not saying that that's something that's entirely brand new. I am saying it's gotten worse. It has gotten worse. I would have to talk with some Huntress mains to see when, but Huntress used to be the one that I would go to. Okay, I'm not looking to do a clown game. Maybe I'm gonna mix it up some. I really liked playing Huntress, but now it's very frustrating to feel like, you see the hatchet hit somebody and nothing happens. Like, that's very bizarre. I'm told Wesker is pretty severely bugged. I think it's the one where he essentially freezes in place and it just kind of ends the game for him. I'm not sure. That was in 2v8. I think it carried over to 1v4. I think that's the issue. Wesker mains, let me know. And don't get me started on how awful it feels to play Knight and Twins at the moment. They both feel so buggy. They both feel so bad. Also, lastly, as far as bugs are concerned, I kept getting kicked out of my lobbies yesterday, and that seems to be an issue. My internet is fiber connection, so it's really good, and it wasn't having any issues yesterday on anything else I did, whether it was work related, whether it was playing different games, no issues. So this does seem to be another DBD thing too. And look, my thesis, right? My thesis here is that other games don't do this. Other games do not have these issues. I have put significant time into Siege, Overwatch, Rivals, various other live service games, and simply put, nobody else messes up this frequently or takes this long to fix things. And I don't want to bring up the past just to be cruel or to be unfair or bad faith or anything like that. But do you remember how long it took them to kill switch Trickster when he was literally giving people seizures? It just feels like every time there is a bug, of any note, like notoriety, right? It lasts at least 2 weeks too long. Sometimes it's 2 months too long. Sometimes these things are carrying on for a year. It's really remarkable how much they just don't seem to care about fixing these things because, and by the way, when I say this, I do want to make one important caveat. There are plenty of developers at Behavior who I am sure would love to sit down and take the time to fix these issues and make the game as healthy as possible. But because Behavior is a business, because Dead by Daylight is their cash cow, they have to keep pumping out more content. I get that. So I'm not implicating the entire company and saying, oh, you're all bad at your jobs. You're all, of malintentioned origin, I guess. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the way they do things needs to change, at least for a little bit. Because you can look around, you can see people are getting sick of this. And how could they not? Content creators are definitely frustrated by this because this is a big part of what they do. I mean, if you're a killer main on Twitch, let's say you stream, 5, 6, 8 hours a day, and you play killer, well, unless that killer's the pig, you are probably having a really tough time. You're probably having a really tough time considering that survivors can now infinitely loop things like the shack without ever blocking off that window. That is pretty crazy, especially when combined with the Lara Croft perk that makes healthy vaults go faster. That's not acceptable. And if you are a pig main, goodness gracious, heaven help you, this is actually worse because you can't play your character lest you get banned for exploits. So that's not good either. And by the way, it's not just content creators. You look around and look, I know social media is negative. People get negative, but you look around like Twitter or something like that, and people are really just at this point where it feels like it's almost not even anger. It's really just people throwing their hands up and saying like, what on earth are we doing? What is happening? How does this happen every time anything is added to the game? Why? Why can we not add something without it being broken? And I don't want to hear about spaghetti code because it's like, man, this game is almost 10 years old. Fix it. If there's an issue, fix it. And people are going to say, oh, you can tell Food's not a game developer. He thinks you can just fix it. It's like, okay, I get it. Maybe it's built on a bad foundation. Maybe it would take a whole lot to get everything fixed. But is that not worth it? Is it not worth it to fix this? My point, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, so I don't know why I'm wasting my breath. But my point is I would be perfectly fine with pushing back the planned chapters, pushing back things like 2v8, pushing back anything they have planned outside of things like cosmetic releases, which, that's going to be a whole different team working on that, so that's not game breaking or anything, whatever. My point is they need to push everything back, take a pause, and just fix the game. We need another Operation Health. We need them to sit back and fix this game because right now it is very frustrating to know that every time there's anything exciting, oh boy, new game mode, oh boy, new chapter, oh boy, perks, anything like that, it's gonna break the game in some way. And again, sometimes it's severe, sometimes it's minor, but it almost always happens. So for me, I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who loves Dead by Daylight. I love this game. I've put so much time into this game, and I don't have ill will for Behavior. But I do want to kind of give the stern talking to of saying they are not the little indie team that could anymore. They're not some small outfit punching above their weight class. They are a billion-dollar company at this point with tons of employees. They should be able to fix this. And if they can't, shame on them. At that point, shame on them because it should not be this impossible task to get the game running smoothly. Now, obviously, bugs happen in gaming. They happen in single player games and they especially happen in live service games. I get that. I know that that's part of the experience. But like I said, I have yet, and if somebody wants to correct me down below and say, oh, here's one that's way worse, I have yet to find a live service game where it's this constant and this bad. So anyway, it's a bit of a rant, and I don't like to do rant videos because, again, I'm a happy guy, right? Right? I like to make people smile. I don't want to make people frustrated or angry or anything like that, but this is just unacceptable, and I think that we as consumers need to demand a little bit more. So what I would say, practically, I would say maybe don't buy skins for a while. Maybe try to make behavior think, oh man, these people are actually upset. Because right now, it's going to be like how a quick example would be Madden has been getting worse for years. NBA 2K has been getting worse for years. WWE 2K has been getting worse for years. All these sports and sports adjacent games are getting worse and worse because they don't have to get better. Because they know they can coast off of the money made by things like Ultimate Team and card openings and all that. And they're going to make their money hand over fist. So they don't have to care if people are upset. Because a minority will keep the game very, very prosperous. And I think that's a real issue that Dead by Daylight may be running into, is this idea that we're spending so much on skins and rift passes and all that and buying every new chapter. We need to make them feel it a little bit if we're going to. So look, I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying, for me personally, I feel silly, filthy consumer dust food. I already bought the rift pass. Granted, it was with the money I used for the last rift pass and the one before that, because I just, I'm not really buying skins anymore, so it keeps carrying over. I'm gonna try not to spend much money on this game for a very long time. Because it needs to be better. It needs to be better, and I don't want to reward what I'm seeing right now. So anyway, those are my 2 cents. Sorry if it was ranty. Sorry if I've been returning to like DOS Yapper status or something like that. But anyway, I would be very interested to know, where do you stand with the game right now? Are you frustrated, or is this just all overblown? Is this just, it must be a slow day for content, DOS Food? Yeah, let me know down below. Either way, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. And until the next one, I've been DOS Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase.